What time is it? Podcast time. It's a celebration. What time is it? Podcast time. Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa McQueenie, and I am the host of the It's Your Effin' Journey podcast. If a life coach and a therapist had a baby, you would get me. And I am here to share my own stories and share the stories of others who are just doing their thing out in life, inspiring others, and hopefully it will give you the confidence to go after what is on your heart, what's right for you, because it's everybody's effing journeys and it's nobody's decision but your own on what is right for you. Today we have an amazing episode. It is her handle on Instagram and I think TikTok is Becca's Barnyard. I'm going to put it all in the show notes. Her name is Rebecca Elyse, and she is one badass bitch. She pivoted from starting or building a ranch with her husband in January. They closed on their ranch in January, and by March, she was living in a friend's house with an RV with all of her animals. She is a dedicated animal lover and owner, and was like, hard stop, I'm never giving up my animals even though I need this divorce for my life. So you're gonna love her story. I loved getting to know her, and it's crazy because I had been following her for so long on Instagram, and it wasn't until I saw a reel that she posted a couple weeks ago that said something about like it was a timeline of her divorce. And obviously with going through what I'm going through in my own life right now, it really spoke to me. Anybody who authentically speaks about their imperfect life always really speaks to me because I'm out here living my imperfect life, and I know y'all are too. So her story is amazing. I'm going to put all of her information so you can follow along in her journey in the show notes. She's got a book coming out next year, and her story is just remarkable. So I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to join the It's Your Effin' Journey community. I am posting lots of resources and tools to be involved. I want to hang out with you. I want to go on retreats with you. That's on my 2025 vision board, and run together and just be there for each other. Right now, I feel like I really need community. So I feel like if I need it, you probably feel it too. And I want to be there for one another. So there's lots of resources in the community. It's all free. It's not on social media. So join us there. And if you want to get my weekly email updates, I send a weekly email with tips, tricks, inspo, podcast episodes, and more importantly, when my spots are open for life coaching. So we're closed for November, but we'll be open for December, and I'd love to help you to really tackle your self-care despite what you have going on. Holidays are not an excuse. Your job's not an excuse. Your momming is not an excuse. Your relationship's not an excuse. You deserve to take the very best fucking care of yourself, and I want to help you do that. So join me in December. I love you guys. Screen record this, or not screen record, take a screenshot of the episode, share with me your takeaways, and thank you so much for being here. Love ya. Hello, Rebecca. Is it Rebecca or Becca?
Rebecca's fine, yeah.
Rebecca. All right.
Yeah.
Rebecca I is here, and I am so excited to hear about your story. I literally, like, I've been following you forever on Instagram at Becca's Barnyard, and I'm going to put all of this in the show notes. But it was your reel the other day that I was like, what a fucking cool story. So I want to hear
Oh,
everything
thank
about
you.
what you're up to and what you're doing. And yeah, just share. Tell me everything.
Well, it's been a year. Let's just start with that. It has been a year of just hard stops and redirections for me. And I think it's a year I needed. So just diving right into it, I got a divorce this year. Me and my ex-husband, we built a farm, moved in January 1st, and I moved out early March. I went from, this dream to, okay, well, what's my next dream? So it,
What
I
a
mean,
fucking
it
pivot.
definitely was a rough couple months. Oh my God. Yeah, you go from being a wife and, all these things to building this, farm, and then you're like, oh God, like, what am I doing? I'm by myself. But there's also nothing wrong with that, because I think my dream was definitely separate from his. And I think the redirection was needed for both of us to be happy. But So, I, stubborn as I am, I have a lot of animals. And if you follow me on social media, you know that I have a lot of animals. And I was very stubborn that they would all go with me. Very stubborn about that. So I was very, I was in kind of a panic mode because I was like, well, I can't afford the ranch, so I'm the one who's moving. And I'm talking to all my friends, and I talked to my friend Melissa, and she was like, just move in with me. And I was like, at that point, we weren't super close. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't move in with you. And she's like, I have pasture space. We have a room. And I was like, that's a lot. But 2 weeks later, it suddenly became, I had to move. Let's just put it at that. Like, I had to move for a bunch of reasons. And so I call her, and we went to lunch, and she was like, just move in with us. It'll be fine. And I was like, okay, but let me buy an RV. Can I buy an RV? And then like we can just do that. And she was like, of course you can. And her family just took me in. And when I'm at my worst, because it wasn't the greatest divorce in the world, it was, there was a lot of aspects to it. And she took me in, and within a month, we're like inseparable at that point. And her family is just such a great family to be around. And I feel a part of their family. Like, their little 10-year-old is my nephew at this point. Like, to go from like being someone's wife to, oh, unfortunately, it didn't work out, to now I have to figure out life on my own. I'm so blessed with where I landed because I've healed and I have had time to really think about what my future looks like. And during that time, I've always felt like a writer. I've had a blog before. I've done a lot of like short stories, all that. And, as you do when you get divorced, you watch Eat, Pray, Love, or you read it. And so that's what I did. And I was like, why can't I do this? So I was inspired to write a book about my journey, about my divorce, and all the negative aspects of the divorce and how you can overcome those. And it's in real time. So it's my journal practically, where every feeling I'm feeling is that. Like, so during this healing process, during living with Melissa, during buying my own farm, and dating, you see every single emotion that I'm having during that time. And yeah, so parts of it I'm like, oh God, I really did that. But we aren't perfect as humans. But so that was just a passion project. And I was like, I love to travel. So I actually am going solo to Europe in May. And that will be kind of the end of the book, is my adventure over there. Um, but currently I just bought a 10-acre farm on my own. I put a little single wide trailer on it. I've gotten it horse ready. There's a barn out there. I'm waiting on a couple other things before we're ready to move in. And then I will be on my own on a farm, which is going to be hectic, but I think I can handle it. And I've got a lot of support. So I know that when I need help, the help is there. But in a
Nice.
nutshell, that is my year.
So, how long were you married?
I was married for 5.5 years.
So, and you guys like accumulated all these animals together and sort of shared this dream of having a farm together?
Yes, we did. And I did. He had a horse and a couple dogs but most of the animals were, I have donkeys and mini horses, and they were all kind of considered mine because I see an animal and I want it. But yeah, so all of, most of the animals were mine at that point, or what you would consider mine. And, I just made sure that, they helped me through some of the darkest days. And I feel like I owe it to them to try my hardest to give them that home that they need.
Yeah. I mean, how, like, that in itself is amazing because most people are, I shouldn't say most people, but some people do dispose of their animals if they don't have a place that will accept them or don't have somebody that will take them. And it's heartbreaking, right? Like, it's so sad to see those cases. And I get it. Like, but you were like, fuck no, like, I'm taking all of these animals. So, how many animals
Yeah.
were there that you had to account for? Tell me all of them. I want to know what they
I
are.
I have three normal horses. I've got Bo, Honey, and Rita. And then I've got 2 donkeys, Bosco and Waffles. And I've got 4 mini horses, Little Sebastian, Tyrion, Rosie, and Jasper. And I've got a dog. And at that point, I had 2 cats, and now I have 3 cats because I got an 8-week-old kitten. So
Of course you did.
I have a petting zoo. Yeah, of course I did. So she might actually
Wow.
crawl up my leg at some point.
So you guys moved into your place in January, and then it quickly unraveled for you.
January 1. Yeah, and and the book's going to touch on a lot of this. It was not a great situation. And I think hindsight's 2020. I've had a lot of time to reflect on kind of the mental abuse that was going on and, the infidelity, unfortunately, that just was in our marriage the whole time. And, it takes a lot, like, to think about all that. There's
Yeah.
been nights where I've just sat and been like, let me figure out how I feel about all these things because as I move forward with my life, I have that baggage as well. But yeah, so you know, it all unraveled within, and I think a lot of the stress from building the property, there was just so much stress. I don't recommend building a house to anyone. It is just the most stressful thing you can do. On top of all these animals, on top of having a lot of land as well, and then moving, because I was hard. I loved where we lived before. Like, I felt so at home there. So I think I had a lot of unresolved feelings about actually moving because I was
Mm,
moving far enough away from them where it was like I wouldn't see them all the time because I
yeah.
had such a good group of neighbors. So I think there was like that unresolved feelings. And then, I think, when I say I was redirected, I actually in early fall felt very comfortable in my marriage to the point where I was like talking about babies and all these things. And I think my guardian angel is probably drunk at this point, but I think he was like, no, we're hard stopping this. Like, we can't do this anymore. Like, hard stop. We're redirecting her because we can't allow her to have that kind of future. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think it was for the best, but it's also like I didn't really deserve to go through a lot of that, but it is okay because I'm trying to make positivity out of it. And that's why this book is so important to me because if women are in that situation, I'd love for them to read my book and be like, you don't have to stay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to tell you because I am navigating, I really don't know what I'm navigating right now, but it is like marital turmoil.
Mhm.
And when I saw the reel, and when I forget exactly what it says in the reel, I'll post the reel in the show notes so that people can see it because I was like, I guess what was amazing to me was like the timeline of it too. Like you moved together in January to turn around to realize that this was not okay in March. So for me, I guess navigating my own situation, I'm like, what was the thought process? Like, did you know that like on some level, like I can't go any further or that there was something that was going to prevent you from continuing this relationship? Or was it really just like an event that you were like, I can't do it anymore? Like, what was that like?
I remember the night that I was like, oh, this marriage isn't going to continue. It can't. Um, Unfortunately, alcohol is a big substance in our marriage, which is something that I've worked on. But the night we celebrated closing on the farm, on the ranch, we went out to dinner and he was drinking and I remember him yelling at the waitress because the order was wrong. And I was instantly like embarrassed because like you don't do that. Like you just don't do that. And I just remember I asked him to leave the restaurant. Like go outside. Like I'll pay. Well, we're leaving because this is just not the situation I want to be in. And I remember walking out to the car and I was the driver, obviously. And I just remember being like, oh my God, like this is not what I want. Like my cat is running around. um, but I just remember being like, I can't do this anymore. Like, and I remember I was just like holding my head, walking and just being like, what do I do? Like what? Cause like, in a mentally abusive marriage, you think you can't do anything. You think
Yeah.
that you cannot function outside of that marriage. And immediately I'm a planner. So I'm like opening Google Docs and Googling things and like, how do I do this? What does this look like? How do you, because like you don't go into a marriage thinking about a divorce. Like,
No.
and we had hit, yeah, we had hit a couple points in our marriage. There was 2 or 3 times where I was like, am I getting a divorce? And, you know, and I just am like, I don't know how to do this. And so I did get a lawyer, that is, if anyone ever asks me for advice, I'm like, step one, get a lawyer. Because that
Yeah.
just helps having that third party. Because I didn't just walk away. I took what I believed was mine in the marriage. And so yeah, that one moment, and then it just kind of started escalating, and I didn't even know about that part of the infidelity at that point. I had known about 2 other times, and then I had already gotten a lawyer and was moving forward when the infidelity came out again, and I was like, oh my God, like, and that was just like, we're done. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing left here for me at all. Um, so really that was, I mean, it just, and that all happened in January, and in February, it was just like awkward roommates for a while. And then it just started escalating and escalating to the point where I was like, I have to go like
Yeah.
now. So
And I mean, like, so often, and I hate to bring politics into it, but I've been seeing so many posts about women. You know, a lot of women would not be choosing their current relationships if they had the means to support themselves on their own, or had the means to go out on their own. And that breaks my heart. Like, I feel like everyone should have the ability to choose what's right for them because it's right for them, not because they're stuck in a situation or they can't afford to get out or whatever. So for you, was that
yeah,
like how can I, or who can I turn to for help? Like, where are the supports around me? And that's how you sort
yeah,
of like leaned into your friend.
yeah. Yeah, and because I started pushing out that I needed, because I was like, okay, well, I'll just board them in a pasture somewhere and I'll go get an apartment. Or I was just looking at every avenue. Like, I wanted to buy a house immediately, and I was very blessed that I had that opportunity to do so. But I, like, you just can't do that because I was on this mortgage for this ranch and I was married still, and you just can't do that while you're in the middle of a divorce. And so I was like, oh my God, but I have to leave, but I'm not leaving my animals because that was hard no. Like, I was like, they will not stay here without me. So I just started asking around, posting, and then everyone started realizing something was going on because I'm asking on the community pages. I had to tell people, and everyone was blindsided because I painted it perfectly. And
Yeah.
because I showed our marriage on social media as this perfect marriage, and it behind closed doors, it was hell. And I just, so I had to deal with that as well. Also, while I'm trying to figure this out, he starts posting her on social media, and it's kind of acting like it's the same person, where like there was no transition.
No
Like, this is just
way.
the same girl. It's always been the same. Yes. Oh my God. And it's kind of almost at this point I'm like, what are we doing? Like, but during the time I'm like, oh, I'm getting a divorce, but he's already, she moved in 2 or 3 weeks after I moved out. So from another state. Yeah. So I'm just like, on top of having to rearrange my entire life, my husband, because he's still my husband at this point, has a woman living in the house that we built together. And I'm just like, how do you even process that? How do you even process that? Like, you don't, like, you can't, and I should probably go to therapy. But we're working on that. We're working on that one. we're, we're going to figure that one out.
You're
Um,
doing amazing on your
so,
own.
but,
So
so thank you so much. I'm trying, and writing actually helps because it puts it into perspective. You write it down and you're like, oh, and there's a book by Gabrielle Stone. It's called Eat, Pray, Fuck My Life.
I
Best book
love
I've ever
that.
read. Um, best book. She does the same thing where she goes to Europe for a month, and she and I don't know if she coined the term thought onion, but I love it. Oh, did I lose ya? Oh, did I lose you?
No, it's okay. We'll cut it out. But I'm dying to hear what you were saying about the book.
Have Wi-Fi.
There you go. I see you. Can you hear me?
Dang it.
Am I here? Can you see me?
Stop. Please stop. Please just stop.
Am I here?
I wonder.
Hmm. That's weird. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right. You pray fuck my
Just a
life.
little. Okay, yeah. Eat, Pray, Fuck My Life. Best book I've ever written. If read. If you are going through something like this, then I highly suggest it because it's more modern than Eat, Pray, Love is, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of women will love it. Um, but she coined, I don't know if she coined it, but she talks about thought onioning why we think things. And it's pretty much like what is the superficial layer, and then like the middle layer, and then the deep thought underneath. And that's what I've been trying to do is like, if I'm mad about the divorce, I'm like, okay, well, why am I mad right now? Like today, why am I mad? Hold on, I'm going to take this ball away from my kid. Okay. She's like playing with this ball, and I'm like, girl, right now is the time. Um, so, but it's a farm over here.
I'm expecting like a horse to
But
appear
why
behind
am
your
I
shoulder.
mad? The cat might climb up my leg at some point because she's only 8 weeks old. Um, and she's just running. Um, so it's like, okay, it's November. My divorce is final. Everything's moved on. Why am I mad today? So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I saw, because I've blocked everything on social media, but things get through. Um, and so, okay, well, I saw something on social media and I'm mad about it. And I'm like, well, why are you mad? And you're like, well, because that was my life. I was like, okay, well, yeah, that was my life. And I'm mad that he's doing things without me. What do I care? I was like, okay, let's go down to the middle thought. I was like, do you really want that life back? Well, no. Okay, well, he's allowed to exist. He's allowed to move on in his space. So, and then the deeper thought is like, well, why couldn't he do that with me? Like, what was so wrong with me? And that's the key. Oh my God, cat. But that is the key to why I'm feeling like that is like, well, why wasn't I good enough? And I'm like, no, 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 no. You can be the whole package at the wrong address. Like, that's why you're feeling this way is because you thought, like, you gave your all in that marriage and he showed you time and time again that you were at the wrong address. So it's, but you feel the feelings, of course, but also kind of dive into why we're feeling them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So what
Well,
has been, how long
yeah.
did it
And
take you to start
mean,
dating?
oh, okay. It's going to be out in the book anyway. So I think when your marriage is filled with infidelity and you're like, I think your first thought is once you're like, no, we're done, you're like, well, I'm gonna go get someone and and show you that I can date too. I can be with whoever I want. So pretty quickly I was finding these men. And I think I've had an epiphany recently about dating. But and I feel bad for the men that are in my book, and I promise their names are changed, but because they are innocent bystanders to the chaos of my life at that point. But pretty early on in the spring, I was like going on dates, and some of these men were so nice, and they don't deserve any kind of hate, and I write them in a way that they are the nicest people, but obviously I am not in a place to date you because even though I said I was, but I'm not because I went from being a wife to now I'm dating at 31 and what does that look like? And it's not great. But like, it's it's hard. So, and I think through the summer, I kind of was on, like, would talk to these people. And then, around August, I met this man who was very nice. But I ended it because our lives were just very different. He was more city and I am country. And we just didn't meld. And it got weird and it got almost uncomfortable because he wouldn't let it go, to the point where I was like, do I need a restraining order?
My
But
God, that's scary.
so that was scary. And then yeah, it's not, it's scary out here. But thankfully that kind of resolved. And then while that was going on, I was talking to this other man who kind of showed me that I was kind of going toward men I knew that wouldn't hurt me, that were very nice men, and I have nothing against them, but they weren't really my type. I wasn't super attracted to them because they were safe. It was like, oh, he's really nice, he's not gonna hurt me.
Yeah.
But then I'm settling for, it's fine that we have nothing in common because he's nice to me, and I don't want to be cheated on again. I don't want to marry a man who treats me horribly
Yeah.
again, because that is a big fear, is going back. Because even though I act, hard, and that, I can do it all by myself, I do see myself as like a lover girl who would love that again, to try and find real love, because I
Yeah.
don't think my marriage was real love. I think it was just there. So, I, in the last couple months, I've learned that I need to be a little bit more picky on the men that get access into my life. Because I am a whole person by myself, and the people that I allow in need to be whole people by themselves as well, because I can't build you up while I'm also like building myself up as well. So if you want to come into my life, I need you to be okay, of course, like being together, but also I need you to be able to be okay on your own, because I can't allow that into my life.
Yeah.
So, and
Well, and
nothing against the men I've dated, but they just needed they needed someone.
yeah, yeah. No, and that's an important thing in my life too, is like when you're in a on a personal growth journey of whatever kind, you expect the other person to be on some kind of journey, some growth journey too, right? Or else there's just not a lot that aligns. And I don't know about you, but I
Yeah.
have I have really good I'll say some really good relationships that I respect. And I see how they function as a couple. And I'm like, that is the gold standard of a
Mhm.
relationship. And anything less, it's just not it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that's, and I think I finally have come to that point where I'm like, oh, yeah, we're not doing that. Like, you have to meet me where I'm at.
yeah,
And my friend's been telling me that this whole time. She's like, you have to meet someone on your level or it's just never going to work.
yeah. So do you think that some of those people that you met may have been a better fit, but just not aligning in the time? Like you needed more time to sort of process and heal, or do you think it was just part of the process?
Um, I think a lot of them were part of the process. There were some that I thoroughly enjoyed being around. There's one that I write, like, if we got another shot, that I would try. But, I do struggle with like building people up for maybe not who they are, but who I want them to be. And I think a lot of women
Yes.
do that. They want
Fixer.
this man to be their knight in shining armor, and they're just not. They're just not. And like, but you, like, when you're away from them, when you're just texting them, you're like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. Look at all these things. And then like in real life, it's like, is he really? So, but there is, because in my book, and I'm toying with how I'm writing it, but all these men's are kind of like side notes to my healing process. And but there is that one guy who I'm like, I kind of played a part in that not going well, but if we had another shot, I would put more, I would change how we did it, but
Yeah.
we also have to move on with, maybe he just doesn't, want to. But and that's the hard part, is like going from, and I hate to say that, men that like are like yes, 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 to men that are like, we'll see how it goes. It's very hard. So,
Yeah.
and there's some like attachment issues in there as well for me, where I'm like, oh, what do you mean you don't love me off the bat? Because all I've ever been is love bombed. So it's hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard.
So for you, the book is like it's like a current sort of journal that you're working through, or is it already done and you're just like finishing up the pieces?
It is a current journal. So, and I always feel like when I need to write again, I don't write every day because, just every day isn't something going on. But, I get to that point where I can start, and I don't know if this is just how brains of writers work, but I'm like, oh, I need to write because the words are overflowing. Um, it's just, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff. And right now I actually do need to sit down and write because there's a lot going on in my head. And I think it's just, it is play by play. So the men that you're gonna see, some of these men I'm gonna write about, like, this is the love of my life. Like, I have
Yeah.
met the love of my life, and then 2 chapters later, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, like, let's back that up because he's not the
Yeah.
love of my life, and these are the reasons why, and this is how I felt about it, and so you're in real time. I don't know how this is gonna end. I don't know. I know that it ends in my solo trip to Europe. I would like my last couple pages to be on the flight home. I am working on, because I'm handwriting a lot of this book. So I'm working on moving it to a digital aspect, because it's going to need to be edited. Names need to be changed. I've been talking, I have a friend who's actually a published author, and she's starting to give me some advice on how to move forward because I also don't want to be sued. Because I am making big revelations about my marriage and the abuse and the infidelity that happened. So,
Yeah.
I kind of have to tiptoe to where I am telling my truth, because everything, and I'm going back, I'm looking at my receipts to make sure that I am being as truthful as possible. Because that will be it'll be like everything that in this book is true. This is how I felt about it. This is how I healed, and you don't, how I healed is how I healed. And that's it. And I hope that maybe a woman will see that and learn from it, maybe.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, kudos to you for sharing. How has like and I really related to what you said in the beginning about people being shocked about your divorce initially in your life, because I've been married twice now, and my when my first marriage ended, I had the same experience. It was like, you don't share, at least at the time. I was young. I was in my early 20s, and who wants to share when their marriage is struggling? Who wants to deal with your friends, forming judgmental opinions about your relationship or about your husband? So I did stuff everything. And then when we were getting divorced, it was like this, oh my God, I thought your marriage was so great. And then it's like this like explanation of like, there's so much shit behind the scenes that you just don't know about someone's life. But this time in my marriage and in
Okay.
this struggle that we're in right now, I share very openly about it. And it's allowed for so much more connection in my life, because even though I don't know what the fuck I'm doing or how this is going to play out, allowing people to see this real, raw struggle and journey that I'm on has allowed me to have such deeper friendships.
Yes. Oh my God. And that is another thing, is like the friendships I have now that I'm openly talking about this, like, are the friendships I've always wanted. Like, I've always
Yes.
wanted girls that have just been like, I am like, and that's what I had. And it's just so great. And I cherish those relationships so much because without them, I feel like I would fail because I do lean on them very heavily. And, yeah, I am trying to do this by myself, but when it gets hard, when the lonely gets hard, and when the nights are quiet, I know I can go sit and she'll just sit with me. We'll watch a movie, something, or she'll talk it out with me. And, Melissa has heard my feelings on the same thing probably 5 million times, but I just need to say it one more time. Like, I just need to
Yeah.
get it out one more time. And, my friend, and every time I talk about the book, because at first when I was like talking about the book, I was like, I don't know, this is a lot. And they're like, oh, you have to write this book. Like, this book has to be written. And so just to have that support and love, and she does it without even trying. Like, just her presence and my other friends' presence is just so beneficial to me.
Yeah.
And it's something that I will never let go again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's amazing. And I feel the same way. Like in a situation where I feel sometimes like I need to have the answer when they're like, "How is everything going?" And I'm like, "I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know. I'm just fucking doing my everyday and I don't know what the answers are." But
Living.
what
Yeah.
they've met me with is
Yeah.
like, you don't have to know. And not just you don't have
Yep.
to know, but it can look whatever it looks like to you, and it's not anyone's place to judge, right? And that has been so nice because I'm like, I don't have to know the answers, I don't have to know the outcome. I can just be in this place of exploration and figuring shit out, and people will support me, and whoever doesn't, I don't even have to fucking talk to about this. Like, they can be in their own little land and I can be in
Yep.
mine.
Yep. And that's where it's such a big thing to kind of protect your space.
Yeah.
Because any negativity will just feed into you because you'll get down. You'll be like, oh God, my life, I'm so sad. I'm so sad. And then if there's a negative person or someone who's like, whatever, like it'll start to be a negative spiral. And you really just need to protect your space. And I totally get that because, there's been people who just have chosen not to talk to me. I mean, I've gotten messages out the yin yang of how people are happy with how I've handled things, but I'm also like, I am a wreck on the outside of social media. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm chaos and a wreck. I mean, it's getting better, but you don't see I don't post all the negative. I have posted
No.
negativity now because I feel that it's pertinent, but not negativity, but more just like, I'm not feeling that great today.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, it's okay to not
divorce
be
was hard
okay.
today. Like, yeah, it's totally. And like, I don't think, because I'm like, oh my God, am I harping on this? Like, because I'll post a TikTok because I'm mainly a TikTok girl. Like, I'm trying really hard to build that aspect. And I'll post a TikTok that talks about overcoming this divorce. And I'm like, am I really harping on this? Like, are people done with me talking about this? But I'm
No.
not done talking about it. So you can
Mm-mm.
unfollow me. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
so
that was what spoke
yeah,
out to me. Like, I
it's
mean,
interesting. And
I've been following you forever, but that was that one reel. I was like, boom, I'm messaging her now. I need her on my podcast. Like, that was what spoke out to me. So do not stop talking about it until you're ready to stop talking about it, right? Because then you'll be in another phase of your life. But you're speaking to those people that need to
yeah,
hear that. And I know for me, when I am vulnerable about it, mostly on the podcast, because that's where I feel better about talking about it. I know there are people that need to hear it too, that are in that, like, what do I do? Where am I going? And just need to be okay with that.
yeah,
So I love that you're doing that.
yeah.
I love TikTok too. So, and I don't intentionally grow on there anymore, but I did in 2020 and it was really, really fun. So you're trying to grow your TikTok, and is it like, what do you focus on over there? Because I haven't even checked you out on TikTok, which I have to do.
So it started out because I used to not talk on camera, like at all. Like that's where my self-esteem was, is like I don't want to see myself on camera. And then so it started out just my animals with like funny noise, like funny sounds. And like one of them went kind of viral into the millions of views, and I got a little bit of like very little following from it. And then I was like, oh well, this is so much fun. And I enjoy it. And I do it because I enjoy it. I love making these videos. I love showcasing the Western lifestyle. I love showcasing my animals and how you take care of them. So, I've done that for a long time, and I've kind of started transitioning into my whole life, because at first it was strictly animals because, everyone says you have to have a niche, and I do, but my niche is my life. Like, I live this country farm life. I'm a nurse my full-time job is a nurse. But you don't see a lot of that. But I, living in the RV, going out as a girl, because I've started being like, I'm going to do my makeup because I feel good when I do my makeup. So this is my makeup for the day, or this is my outfit for the day, or, you know, this is me riding my horse. This is me taking care of my horses. This is a funny video about this. And, so it's really just me at this point, and my animals are still a very big part because I think people do enjoy seeing, like, I've got the minis and the donkeys, and me and the donkeys are like, those are my boys. So I try to showcase all of them. equally, but it has, and I've started mentioning my book. And I'm so nervous to start. And I was like, oh man,
That's
this is the
so
first time I'm really
exciting.
publicly talking about it. It is. And I'm just like, oh, I'm doing this. Like, we're full send. We're doing it. And and so I'm starting to talk about it more and more and be like, no, this is what's really going on, because people want real life. They don't want,
Mm-mm.
you know, fake. They want real. And I'm like, no, this is real life. This is my 9th month living in an RV. And it's been such a great experience for me. And I hate to be like, oh, living in an RV after my divorce was the best part of my life. No, like, this has been such a great 9 months. There's been sadness, there's been healing, but there's also been so much growth and positivity that I'm just like, people are going
And
to need to see
peace.
this.
You got to have a lot of peace in that RV, right? Like that's what I talk about all the time in this
Oh
house.
my
I'm
God.
like, if there's not peace, like I don't want it. So like when you say RV, like
Exactly.
that, I'm like, I want that.
And it's great. And like, I bought it fast. So but it's perfect. It's like a little apartment. And it's been a learning curve because RVs take maintenance. But, my friend's husband
like
has been so
like
helpful whenever
toilets.
I'm like, the power is off. What do I do? Oh my God. Yes. I am not hooked up to sewer. Fun fact. So I have to do, I call them poop wheelbarrows. But they're like just big old wheelbarrows that you take over to a septic dump, and that was an eye-opening situation for me. I was like, "Oh, we're really doing this by myself. This is what we're doing right now." I'm showing my shit. So I will be very happy when I'm hooked up to a septic system. I am waiting. I hope so. I'm waiting on electricity to be hooked up. Um, and then they'll put the skirting on around it. And then we do some final walkthroughs and I'll be moving in, and I'm so scared, but the house is there and I can go inside of it, and I just feel so happy and at peace. And because I shop through Titan, mobile homes, and I remember the lady I met, she was just the most open person I've ever met when like selling stuff. Like, I know she's a salesperson, but she also wanted to know about my story, so we talked about it a lot. And she talked me out of buying a one to one. Like, I was gonna get a 1 bedroom, 1 bath house and be like, I don't care, I'm in a cabin by myself in the middle of nowhere, whatever. And she's like, for the love of God, could you not do that? She's like, please don't do that. So she talked me into a 3-2, and because I was like, I'm just gonna not be, I'm just gonna do whatever. And I was so like in a weird spot when I was shopping for it, but she talked me into getting like a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and which I'm thankful for, because the space is I like it, because after living in an RV, you're like, I would love some space. Uh, so but I remember walking into my mobile home, like the show, and I just remember walking in and being like, oh my God, this is it. Like, just this sudden relief. Um, Sorry, my dog's gonna bark. Animals, animals. But yeah, so, and then, now when I walk into it, yeah, it is very on brand actually. But now when I walk into it out there, I'm just like, oh, thank God, like this is where I'm going to be living. And I'm very sad to be leaving where I'm living now. Because we just have so much fun. Like, and it's instant fun. It's like, do you want to go ride your horse down the road for a little bit? I'm like, of course I do. But you know, and yeah, and the neighbor, and honestly, if there was a house right here, I would have been like, I'm buying that house, but it just didn't work out that way. But I'm moving back to where I was initially living in Texas, closer to, those neighbors that I miss, and, kind of an area where I want to be. So I'm very excited for it. Thank you. Oh, thank, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. And that's the end goal, is to just kind of help other women, because if there's one thing that's changed this year, and I don't think I wasn't a girl's girl, but I am a girl's girl now. Um, where I like like if you reach out to me and you're like, I need something, I'll be like, let's go. Like, what do you need? And that's just kind of, as a core, that's what I want to be right now. So, but I just appreciate so much you letting me come talk about this. It's just been so great. Oh, thank you so much. And you have a great day too. Okay, bye.